Hi, everybody. Corrie Thorne, the spiritual healer, coming in to do the weekly vlog. This one is for the week of December what is today? December the 2nd. So it would have started around the 1st is when the energy started to play out here. This is kind of going deep, deep wisdom energy is what I'm picking up. I have a sense of, I'm not going to lie because, I can't. I have a sense of sadness today as I'm even doing this. I don't know why. I don't know where it's coming from. It was like there was a big high, got all hyped up, came flying through that full moon. Not everybody did, but it was like came flying through. And then it was like this crash freaking landing. And I feel like today, it's like I've just been through this crash landing. I'm like skidding in, trying to pull my shit together, trying to get through the day, trying to get through the energy. So if you find yourself today being challenged, I feel like it's in the energy. I feel like it's something that's really out there in the energy today. Even my dog's just validating that for us, that this is bullshit. And so there's some kind of bullshit energy out there today that's that's playing out for us. I have that it's trying to bring us into a place of deep seated going into like going into the deep depth of the forest. So today I'm in my fairy forest cards by Lucy Cavendish, and I'm not reading the book for it, of course. I'm just using them in validation to the messages that I'm receiving. But I love her cards. I love her work. And so and of course I feel, of course, I feel as if this is very much in the energy of I want to say, and I know this is not for everybody, and it's not, and it don't take it. Please don't mix this up to be religion. Please just know that this is from the angelic realm, from the holy, from the realm of the whole, from the ascendant masters. So the ascendant masters of of the of the universal energy, those who have walked the earth prior to us, that had gone through struggles and challenges, who were crucified and judged and had to really find their courage and find their strength and find that energy. So it's like the Jesus energy. I'm also pulling in the energy of some of the greatest kind of leaders who would have maybe not saying they would have done everything exactly as to please everybody, but they're trying to do the right thing for the right reasons. And it's like those ascended master energies, those from spirit world who walked the earth before that mastered their human experience to what they came to experience and learned their lessons or learned their journey, like really learned it and brought it back into spirit world and transmuted it back to us so that we could do better. And I feel like sometimes it feels as if we're not doing better and we're wondering what the hell, like, where did that go? How did I miss that? Why did I waste that time? There's a lot of regret kind of energy coming up as I'm kind of trying to get through this today. So I'm struggling with words. I feel like I want to speak backwards. I feel as if I want to speak another language today. And I know I'm channeling through, and it's like I feel like I want to speak another language. Like it's not my language, and it's like I know it's coming from ancient wisdom when it's trying to like bring me into like these accents and trying to bring in this different language. And this there's some, it's like we're right on the cusp, on the edge of letting things end. And of course, going into the Aquarius, like going into the age of Aquarius, it's like we have to let the last era end. And it's like there's a lot of pain, struggle, suffering, a lot of like the last 800-900 years span type of thing. There's a lot of old energy. And of course, because we carry the karma, we carry the karmatic debts, because we carry all that from our past, from our parents' past, blah, blah, blah. It's like today it feels as if there's like an ending. It's like some final moments are happening. But in that meantime, it's like this is kind of right at the root of us, right in the answers. And we got to go really deep inside of there to say, am I finally done? Have I finally got this? Am I ready to really step into a new light? So it's like the energy of being able to start to move into mastering through then that I've got this, I've mastered, so I don't need to do it again. I've got the lessons, I've learned it. So Ragnarok is this beautiful, powerful, like she's pissed off energy. And that's exactly what I feel like today. Fucking pissed off at myself, pissed off at myself for a lot of things of just, and I don't know why, just is just coming up, it's just rising, and I allow myself to go through the experience. So allowing yourself to go through the final stages of experiences is very important. I do have, so with that destruction and with that end, I am kind of seeing some destructive energy appear. I've been seeing, feeling, and sensing this earth rattling energy for weeks now, and I'm like, and whether or not it's emotions, I feel like it's actually in earth itself, like something of the earth shaking. So I don't know if it's an earthquake, I don't know if it's a storm, or if it's a tidal wave. I see like everything is just moving. I just see these waves, like everything is just going like this. And I don't know where it's coming in. And it could just be washing through our lives and just like washing out the final pieces. And it just feels like that final countdown before a rocket takes off, like the ground rumbles, the flames come up, and it's like, and then you hear that big noise. That's what it feels like. And that's what it feels like inside of me today. It's like my whole inner self, my solar plexus, everything just feels like it's ready to just like explode, just take off. And it's like that energy, it's really truly saying, it's time for transformation. It is time for change. It is time to move forward. It's a sense of understanding what freedom is going to look like for us, what it's like to be free of old emotions, what it's like to move beyond old relationship energy, what it's like to free yourself of being held hostage to some old energy. With that comes in the shapeshifter, and this is like instinctual. The shapeshifter energy is being able to adapt and adjust to your environment, being able to change for what's coming. And I feel like that's just like, it's like looking back at those experiences, looking at where we've been, is allowing us to adapt to the new age, being able to adapt that no matter when new beginnings start, it's never going to be easy. It's never going to be simple. And there's always going to be some challenges, and we will be challenged. And I feel like December is like some challenging months. We are in between. We just had the lunar eclipse and the full moon, and now we're in between solar eclipses, and we're in between, the new moon energy. It's like, but we're also in Sagittarius season. So this is a fire season. This is a fire energy right now that we're in. And so we're in the energy of Sagittarius, which is strong, confident, very independent, very free thinking, like think for themselves, don't follow the pack so much, wants to kind of be in charge, but very much a leader of a pack is where we want to be. And so leader of your own life, to be in charge of your own life, to be able to know that that you have some sense of, you're going to have to trust your instincts. December is truly about knowing how to, you've got to trust yourself, that, trust your instincts on what is shifting and changing, and how much you're willing to shift and change. There's some flexible, bendable, it looks like metal to me, in the energy. And I feel like it's telling us we may have to be willing to give something up, but we're going to have to be very careful of how much we are selling ourselves out. And so being aware of where you are selling yourself out, and that you're not willing to, there's parts of you that you're not willing to sell. You're not willing to give up. You're not willing to give up your freedom. You're not willing to, like, there's a lot of things that are at play right now. And so it's like, and I spoke with this in my last life, a lot of bing bang, like a lot of pinging energy off each other. And so this is the solitary and dedication, self-love, focus. It is really a time to go deep into the stories, deep into self. There's a lot of self-healing, so that, there's a lot of self-love, focus on you, because what it is that as we shift and move, there's a lot of collective energy. There's a lot of coming together energy. But right now, I get to define myself. I get to be the one to set myself free. I get to be the one to be the saving grace of my own life. Who am, who who does anyone think they are to get to define me? And so you are defining yourself. And with this comes in the beautiful roses. And with the beautiful roses, I always think of the Mother Mary energy and another woman who would have walked on earth. Um, Same thing, always somebody else, claiming, owning, defining her energy and her role and how important she was into the journey of the suffering of the Jesus story, and the crucifix, the crucifixion of Jesus, that being crucified for not willing to conform to a organization, an organization that wanted things to all be one way. So because of some man's fear, because of somebody's fear story, this man was crucified. And and you know and that was, to think that that is part of our fated story, like that is, a contract that we sign up for coming in, that we choose some of our misery and suffering, is a hard thing to accept. What is the lesson? What is the blessing? If you read my book and you read all the way to the last chapter, in the very last chapter, I speak of it all the way through, is that Jesus had come to me in an awake dream. I call it very aware, very awake. And I had to put the crown upon his head. And what I've come to realize is that that crown of thorns is our own suffering, our own misery that we place ourselves into, our our choice to not to let go, not to surrender over, that we hold on to everything, causing ourselves more misery, pain, and suffering than we have needed to. And that when we even say, oh, I've let go, and you realize your life is still really struggling, that you're still really struggling in a lot of ways, that you're actually lying to yourselves, is that we tell ourselves those stories, but we never really let go. And so we are defining ourselves by that story, and it's not always the truth. And only when we're willing to finally surrender it all, when we're finally willing to let it go. So in the last chapter, I speak about when I finally opened my eyes to realize that Dr. Wayne Dyer had come to me in a dream, said, you're not done, you have one more chapter. You always have to be willing to push yourself that little extra. You have to be willing to put in a little extra work, to go a little farther, to do a little bit more. Magic and miracles do not happen if we just get comfortable, or if we stop because life is hard or because it's challenging. We have to be willing to push ourselves that one little bit farther. We got to be willing to explore things a little bit farther. We got to be willing to look at all sides. When we get stuck in a story and we just want to stay comfortable in that, and we're not willing to explore it further, we can't bring change. We can't move into a healthier being. And we always have the doubts of shoulda, coulda, woulda, and what if we were wrong? What if there was some problems? What if there was some corruption? What if there was, and what if this is not how it was meant to be? We carry all of that. And so when we allow ourselves to fully say, you know what, I'm ready. And so in that last chapter, I speak about taking the crown and placing it fully down and just surrendering all over. That's what was asked of me. That was asked of us on the journey. And so this is a part of that journey that we take through life. Part of your human experience is that you're here to have the human experience and to be able to come back and return to wholeness and find that sense of wholeness. And that's us mastering life. And as I've moved into a grandmother role and I find myself, everything has changed again, is that what have I mastered? And so what have I done well? What have I succeeded at? What can I say that I learned, that I know, I now know I'm never doing that again? And where do I go from here? How do I, what am I ready to have a big bang about? It's like I always say that golden light of the God consciousness is like the big bang. It's like that big golden light, went through a big explosion, and all these little particles, little lights all fell into these little human bodies. And we all became this energy. We all became a little child of God. We all became that light. And so those little pieces all returning comes back together. So when we come back together, when we return back to our whole self, when we can remember who we are, when we can remember that we are the spiritual being having the human experience, is that we truly will be able to look at it from a new perspective, a new view, that we're here to be dedicated to the cause of whoever you are, dedicated to the cause of living the best life that you possibly can, that we are here to more than exist. We're not here to live in fear of a death that is inevitable. We're here to live in the experience of experiencing life breathing, living, experiencing, and not to be so, so determined to shape shift so quickly into conforming into what we're being always told. This is what you need to be, this is what you should be. And it's like freedom. And what is my freedom going to look like? What is, it's based on my wisdom, based on trusting my own instincts. How will I set myself free of living a life of fear or living myself life on a repeat of the past? Because the more that we live in repeat, the more that we're not learning our lessons. We're not learning, we're not getting the lesson or the blessing that's trying to come to us. And so setting ourselves free and letting endings happen when we let go, when we let go of all of it and we surrender it all over, we now have an opportunity for a new beginning. In a new beginning, many things are possible with this solar eclipse. And then of course we're coming to the end of the year. So a crazy ass year, I must say. And so when I look back at the year and you think, what did go right? I mean, in this year, it's in 2020, I had a daughter get married, my granddaughter was born, published a book, the program took off, the school started. Like there's so many things on top of all of this that happened. There's got to be something that did go well for you. Even so much as if your child passed a grade, something went well, something did good. Find that one little thing is what you're being told. Because then also about finding that, you find that one good thing and then you see a little smile come on your face. When a little smile comes on your face, and we got something to kind of start to bring us up. And so this is about us coming back in December, even though it's a challenging time, is to be able to look in with a new perspective and to be able to gain some new perspective and look back at the past, like, you know what, there's, it is what it is. And so there's a whole lot of, it is what it is. Can't change it. This has happened to us. We've been here, but it's like, it can't define and control us anymore in the fact of allowing us to destroy ourselves, destroy our connections, destroy our friendships, destroy those things. There's a lot of stories happening here, a lot. And so that those ascendant masters who've walked before us is very much telling me that in that time, they did learn, they did know, and they did find the magic key, the magic element, the magic moment that we're all here to experience life to the fullest. And so the card that comes out is to validate our final piece of the story as we come to the end of, after this, I feel like after the solar eclipse energy is that she who laughs, humor, perspective, mirth. It's like when you can find that moment, when you can look in and you're not defined by the past, but you're redefining your life. And I feel like it's like, this is an opportunity when we come out from that inner soul searching journey, that we get the opportunity to redefine. And how will we redefine? Not live in the new normal. It is, how will I redefine the way that I view life, the way that I live life, how I used to just assume things. We just took this freedom for granted. We just took life for granted. How will I redefine without living in fear? How will I be able to build up a new, how will I be a part of building up that new future, that new way of, that new life that I know is waiting for us here. We can't fully see what the future looks like, but we can start creating it with magic and miracles. And the beautiful green that I have that's coming in is the sense of healing. There is a lot of healing taking place right now, a lot of healing in the energy. I feel as if there's only, like, you're going to see very quickly, they're going to start, like, all of a sudden it's going to be like magically, there's going to be vaccines showing up. There's going to be things showing up that are going to be a part of the healing journey now. So inner healing, relationship healing, come together healing, healing of the past so that we can move forward. There's a lot of healing, and just knowing full well that we all have to change in some ways. There's always, if we keep trying to stay stagnant to who we were or the way that we lived, then that's not going to be able to bring us into a new future. That's going to keep us held hostage to the past, and we don't want to stay there. We want to move beyond there. We want to be ready for some big changes that's coming. But like I said, with all new beginnings, there is a challenge. It is not always easy, but how determined are we? How much faith do we have? This is about having faith and about knowing that we're going to have to reach really, really high to pull ourselves up. And this energy will shift, and this frustration that we have, this this too shall pass, for everything shall pass. And it's like, it's kind of like I heard the other day, it's like, oh, it's that return to Eden, like we're returning to Eden. And I'm like, screw that, I'm not freaking going back to Eden. No one's telling me how I'm going to live my life. No one's telling me if I don't take a bite out of that apple that I'm going to be condemned for life. Fuck that. That was kind of my thought. And it's like, and so I'm like, yeah, no, I'll create another garden over here, and I'll go over there and I'll eat like oranges and uh and pears and plums and whatever else grows on the tree, and I'll live without the apple. Because there's many other seeds to plant, and we don't have to put all of our focus into that one whole thought. And so allowing your thoughts to be creative, to start to create your own future, to see how you want it to unfold, and to know that that whole sense of a loving life doesn't mean that it has to look like a loving life of somebody else's. Your beautiful life does not have to look like somebody else. You do not have to become like somebody else. We do not have to have every country be exactly alike. We don't have to all be alike as people. And if we all start being like a carbon copy of each other, and we all start looking alike, dressing alike, thinking alike, being alike, we're in for a big, big problem. In the end, that's not bringing us to a beautiful world. That's taking us to a world where we will be a robotic mind, and we don't want to be that. So it's like kind of laughing at that. And that's kind of, that's the little bit, the rebel that's coming up there. And so you're going to find yourself a little bit that rebel energy as you come into the new moon energy, as that starts to come forth. And it's like the high priestess, and you're just right. And that's just you, like breaking free and just being you. And there's a whole sense of, and I always joke that I always laugh at this card's a number 2, because I always say, I spent a lifetime fighting to be in number 1, to be important somewhere, because I always say I'm the number 2 child. I'm the baby. I'm the number 2 child. And I always said, I always want, for once, could I just be the golden child? Could I just be number 1? Could you just be? And it's like, and now I look back at that, I'm like, that narcissistic little girl, and that fearful little child, and that whole forgotten child story, and all of that is like, I played that story, that victim story, for so long. And it's like, now that I think back, and I'm like, okay, all that desire and fight that I betrayed myself, sold myself short, I did all of those things, didn't believe in myself the way that I should, all in that desire. And desire can be one of the worst things in the world when it's in the unhealthy mind. What is it you're desiring? What is it you're trying to reach for? And that can be a real kind of like, that can be a real Lucifer kind of moment that might take you into. And so that will really challenge you. But if it's into the sense of saying, you know what, I need to start inspiring myself, be that person who brings my own self into alignment with my mind, body, soul connection, so that I can start to reach higher to my higher self and return to wholeness. What I come to realize, it was never about becoming a 1. It was actually about becoming a 0. It's about returning to that 0. It's about returning to being nothing but being everything, being not special, but being worthy of everything, about having value and worth and being equal. We don't have to be alike, but we are all equal. And to be that equal soul, that equal person to each other, is so important. And a lot less judgment upon ourselves, a lot less judgment upon where we have been, and a lot more looking at what we've actually accomplished and how far we've actually come, and to find humor. By gaining new perspective, we can find some humor in where we have been and where we are going, and sometimes how crazy some of our thoughts can be. And so finding something to smile about, see that golden thread, see that silver thread moment, and find it and hold on to it. Much love. Have a beautiful week. I will see you again next week. Bye bye.